Micromotor Madness. Scale down, drive big.
Welcome to your channel, Micromotor Madness. Today we're diving into a small project. I had a free afternoon. My wife went out with my son, so I had a little time for myself. That's when I noticed this BMW i8 toy that's been lying around for more than 2 years now. My son got it for his birthday, but he quickly lost interest because nothing on it was really proportional. So I thought, why not open it up and do a little tinkering to turn it into something closer to hobby grade? The challenge is to do it without buying any new parts, just recycling what I already have in stock. The goal is to make it a bit more drivable by installing a proper ESC and adding a steering servo so the steering becomes proportional and precise. I used the stock transmission and motor connected to the ESC, where I cut off its on-off switch and soldered it to the car's original switch, a Flysky ESC that originally came out of an FCX Power Wagon. I mounted it inside and secured it with hot glue. Yes, it's a crawler ESC, but it allows switching between forward, reverse mode, and forward, brake reverse mode. As you can see, I've got a bunch of ESCs lying around, ones I removed from several crawlers after converting them to brushless systems. For the steering, I salvaged a servo from the MJX platform. Well, technically it was from an EasyRC Colorado, but it's basically the MJX base. I kept the servo along with its servo saver and mounted it to control the steering. To make it fit, I reused some of the original car's components, trimming here and there to clear space so the wheels could achieve a greater steering angle now that they're servo controlled instead of being driven by a motor. The stock steering was very limited, so I cut into the chassis in a few spots, mainly around the front assembly, to free up the steering travel. The build in this video is more of a first setup. First, we adapt the toy car parts. Then we hook up whatever electronics we have on hand, and we reuse parts removed from previously upgraded vehicles. After that, we test it. And if everything works well and the result is interesting, we might be tempted to go further later and try out some crazier upgrades. I started by opening up the front axle. As you can see, I kept the plastic steering link, and I removed the original motor transmission steering box. I trimmed away some plastic to create room for the servo, carefully measuring so it would slot snugly between the plastic supports. It's pretty stable already and doesn't move much, but I'll reinforce it later to lock it in more securely. Now, about the body. I didn't do much there yet. The car came with scissor-style butterfly doors, powered by a little gear mechanism and a 130 motor, originally controlled by the remote, which we lost shortly after unboxing. I wanted to keep that feature, so I wired in a winch controller to operate the doors, letting me open and close them on demand. I also added LEDs front and rear. The toy already had lights, but I removed them and replaced them with my own, wired directly into the Flysky ESC for cleaner connections. For reference, the car's a Rastar model, licensed by BMW, in 1:14 scale. Right now, the 2S LiPo battery is sitting in its compartment, and now that the ESC is powered, the original on-off switch starts the car. I kept the original battery compartment, but cut out the divider between the battery slots to create space for a LiPo pack. Now we move on to the most important part of this build, the main modification that turns this toy into something hobby grade, the steering. As I mentioned earlier, I'm using the servo from the EasyRC Colorado. To keep things very straightforward, I'm making a direct connection between the servo horn and the original plastic steering link from the car. For this, I'm using M2 plastic rod ends with brass pivot balls. One of the rod ends is curved, the other straight. The curved one is mounted directly to the servo horn, so it aligns with the angle of the plastic steering link. The two rod ends are connected by an M2 screw that I cut down to keep only the threaded part. Here's the original plastic steering link. I set it back into place on the chassis. I also mounted the wheels to check the final geometry, then positioned the servo along with the custom link we just made, and took some quick measurements to see exactly where I should drill into the steering link to connect it to the servo. Once everything was lined up, I grabbed a Sharpie, marked the spot, and removed the servo. Then I pulled out the steering link and used a Dremel to drill a small hole. It doesn't take long. Just a simple hole about 1.5 to 1.8 millimeters wide, and the threading of the M2 screw does the rest. Next, I threaded in a pivot ball, which the rod end will connect to. I secured the ball in place with an M2 nut from the underside, locking it tightly. These pivot balls are ones I salvaged from Hobby Plus rigs that I modified. I've got a whole bag of them, as you can see. That's why I recommend never throwing away the leftover hardware from your mods. It always turns out to be really useful in this kind of freestyle build. And there it is. The new steering linkage is fixed in place. Now all that's left is to mount the assembly back on the chassis and tighten everything down. Now it's time to permanently install the servo. The area where I'm mounting it is slightly sloped, higher toward the front and lower at the back. To level it out, I first applied some double-sided tape, then added a thin piece of foam, about 2 millimeters thick. The foam acts both as a cushion and a spacer to raise the servo off the lower section. With that done, I placed the servo in position, checked the height, and reattached the steering link. Everything lined up nicely. At first, I decided to secure it with epoxy resin. For this kind of project, I don't really work with a plan in advance. I just start filming as I go, applying ideas on the spot as they come to me. It's only afterward that I realize which choices were good and which were mistakes. And using epoxy resin was definitely one of the wrong choices in this build. I'm using a 2-part resin that needs to be mixed thoroughly. It sets quickly, about 5 minutes, so I can keep working. But to reach full hardness, it takes around an hour. I mixed the 2 parts, resin and hardener. Don't do what I did, wear gloves and a mask. This kind of glue can be very irritating, trust me. After mixing, I applied some on the chassis. And just like that, using a steering horn, I spread the resin over the surface where the servo will be mounted. Position the servo. Then spread the remaining resin around it to lock everything in place. Mounting the servo is the key step in this build. It's the modification that the whole hobby grade conversion depends on. Everything else is just trimming and electrical wiring. And the best part is, it's actually easy to do and within everyone's reach.
Servo strong, ESC alive. Proportional steering feels right. Upgrades rolling, we improvise. Micromotor Madness, like the light.
Finally, I apply pressure on the servo for a few seconds to help it hold the desired position. The bond was strong, and within 5 minutes it cured rock solid. But honestly, epoxy was overkill. The servo was already well seated, and a dab of hot glue would have been more than enough, plus easier to remove if the servo ever failed. Still, I went with resin this time, and for extra insurance I added hot glue underneath it afterward. Now the servo is completely solid. It's not going anywhere. With the servo in place, I reinstalled the wheels. One side of it links directly to the steering links. The other ties into the plastic chassis assembly, which uses coil-style springs as shock absorbers. This plastic cover basically acts as the front axle, holding the wheels, steering link, and now the servo in alignment. I had trimmed it earlier to make room for the servo, then bolted it back to hold in place the front axle and the steering.
We improvise. Micromotor Madness, unleash the power to me. Yeah. Scale down, drive big. Micromotor Madness.
I also trimmed the fenders to clear the tires. Later, during testing, I realized they still rubbed, so I ended up cutting them out completely, leaving only the mounting areas for the screws. Next, I connected the servo, powered the car with the original switch, and tested it. The steering was operational right away, smooth and proportional.
ESC alive. Proportional steering feels right. Upwards rolling.
A quick throttle test confirmed the drivetrain was still functional, running the stock 260S motor with its original gearbox and gears. That motor, however, is weak. I wish it had more punch. For comparison, this is another Rastar 114th model I own. A Porsche. That one came on a slightly more flexible hobby-like chassis with a better rubber tires. Unfortunately, this Porsche uses the same transmission and weak 260 motor as the BMW i8 from this build. I plan to upgrade it with a full brushless system, like what I did on my smaller 124th Porsche GT3. Here they are stacked one on top of the other for a scale comparison. That GT3 runs a brushless motor paired with a Dumbo RC transmitter, and the performance difference is huge. Back to the BMW i8. With the chassis and drivetrain assembled, I tested it without the body. It felt surprisingly agile and responsive, almost like it could be turned into a rear-wheel drive drift car. The steering was precise, the servo saver protected the servo well, and although the motor lacked power, the lightweight chassis made it fun to drive. As for sliding, oh yeah, it slides perfectly, and in a really controlled way too. I actually get a great feeling of precision and control over the steering, which makes it super fun to drive. I had such a blast driving it without the body, and my son jumped in too. Honestly, it drives way better than I expected. And here's the funny part. Even with plain rubber tires and no gyro at all, it was actually drifting on this smooth surface. That really caught me by surprise, but man, it was so much fun to watch. Still, as I had suspected earlier, there was a clearance issue. The nut securing the steering link rubbed against the lower chassis, locking up the wheels. I trimmed the plastic to fix the problem and then installed the body. After reconnecting all the electronics, lights, door mechanism, everything, I powered it up again. The butterfly doors opened and closed perfectly via channel 3 on the transmitter, which uses a 3-position switch: open, close, and neutral. The car is now almost ready to be tested with the body on. I'm pretty sure it's going to handle nicely, but I'd be really surprised if it could rip with that weak little motor. The lights worked as well. Headlights with high beam and low beam, tail lights, brake lights, and reverse lights.
Joy to hide. We made it real. With every build, the passion you feel. Light shine bright, the drive is
In the end, I'm really happy with the way this build turned out. The result is honestly satisfying, especially because I managed to deliver on the promise I made to my teammate, to keep the door opening mechanism. That was a top priority in our little spec sheet, and I'm glad I pulled it off. The chassis fit back under the body easily, and although it held even without screws, I secured it properly with the original 8 Phillips head screws. At this stage, the build was finished. I gave it a final test. The car drove smoothly, very controllable, with functioning lights and opening doors. She's such a good-looking car, honestly. The proportions are pretty spot on for a 1/14th scale model, And those butterfly doors just make it look even cooler. For something that started out as a simple toy, it really has that scale. It wasn't fast though. The heavy body killed the drifting ability I had enjoyed during the chassis-only test. The stock 260 size toy grade motor just isn't cutting it. So, the plan now is to swap it for something better. Maybe a 280 motor, or even a higher quality 180 size motor. Either way, it'll require drilling new mounting holes in the gearbox, because the stock motor is secured in place by the gearbox housing. So, the 180 or 280 are either way bigger or smaller than the 260 motor. The transmission housing can't hold them in place. But we can reuse the stock pinion, since the current motor has a 2mm shaft. Aside from the lack of power, which it's really missing, a gyro will definitely be needed once we do the motor swap. And as you probably know by now, if you've followed my other videos, I never stop there. Especially since my son, my loyal teammate in this whole Micromotor Madness adventure, absolutely loves how the car turned out after these mods. And when he's excited about a build, well, that's always a sign that we're going to push it even further. I want to sincerely thank everyone who stayed with me all the way to this point in the video. I promise you this won't be the end. We'll keep improving this car until we have something really cool that might even inspire some of you. With that, thank you again, and I'll see you very soon. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that button. Leave a like or a dislike if you prefer, and drop a comment to let me know what you think of this build, and whether this kind of content interests you. And if you have any suggestions or ideas based on what you saw in the video, don't hesitate to share them. See you next time.